The house was eerily quiet. The only sound was the faint ticking of a clock on the wall. The dog sat by the window, its eyes fixed on the street outside. It hadn't moved for hours, not since she left. Its owner, Emily, had gone off to college, and with her departure, something inside the dog had broken. It no longer cared for the food that was placed before it. No amount of coaxing could make it eat. The room, once filled with the sounds of laughter and playful barks, now felt hollow and empty. The dog, a German shepherd named Rex, stared out the window as if waiting for Emily to return. But she didn't. Days passed, and the emptiness lingered. The family tried everything they could to help Rex, but he remained motionless, his eyes full of longing. Emily had been his whole world. She had raised him since he was a pup, and in return, he had given her all his love and loyalty. They were inseparable, always together. When she left for college, he didn't understand why she couldn't take him with her. It was as if the bond between them was too strong, too real for him to let go. He missed her terribly. The family tried to bring in new faces, new people to distract him, but it didn't work. Rex wasn't interested in anyone else. He only wanted Emily. Each time the door opened, he perked up, hopeful that it was her, but it never was. The hope that flickered in his eyes slowly turned into sadness. He wouldn't eat. He wouldn't play. He just sat by the window, waiting. Emily's mother, Karen, watched him with a heavy heart. She knew her daughter's departure had hit Rex hard, but she didn't know how to help him. Every time she placed a bowl of food in front of him, it remained untouched. Rex had always been a strong, energetic dog, but now, he was a shadow of himself. Days turned into weeks, and still, he wouldn't eat. Karen decided to try something new. She sat down next to him one evening, her hand resting gently on his back. "You know, Rex," she whispered, "she's coming back. You just have to hang on a little longer." For a moment, Rex lifted his head and looked at her, his amber eyes tired but full of trust. It was as if he understood, but the pain was too much for him to bear. But Karen didn't give up. She kept talking to him, offering him comfort, just as Emily had done. Slowly, over the next few days, Rex began to eat again. He still missed Emily, but he started to find some peace in her absence. It wasn't the same as before, but it was enough for him to survive. He still waited by the window every day, but now there was a flicker of hope in his eyes. He wasn't giving up, and neither was Karen. Emily would return, and when she did, Rex would be there to greet her, ready to be reunited with his best friend. It had been weeks since Emily left for college, and the quietness of the house weighed heavily on Rex. Each morning, Karen would wake up early, make her coffee, and quietly slip out to the garden, hoping the fresh air might lift the sorrow hanging in the air. She would glance back inside, seeing Rex lying by the window again, eyes trained on the empty driveway, his body unmoving. He was still waiting for Emily. No amount of coaxing, no new toys, no walks could bring back the spark that had once lived in him. The days felt longer, and the house, which had once been filled with the sounds of Emily's laughter and Rex's joyful barks, now felt like a hollow shell. Rex had become a mere shadow of the dog he once was, his energy drained, his spirit crushed. Karen felt helpless. She knew that the bond between Emily and Rex was unlike anything she had ever seen. They were best friends, partners, and in many ways, Rex had been Emily's protector. He had been by her side through thick and thin, and now, without her, he was lost. One evening, after yet another failed attempt to feed him, Karen decided to take a different approach. She sat down on the floor beside Rex, gently stroking his fur. "You know, Rex," she whispered softly, "Emily's coming back soon. I know it's hard, but you've got to hold on." Rex shifted his gaze slightly, acknowledging her, but his eyes were still full of sorrow. Karen could see the weariness in his face. He had stopped responding to most things. But as she sat there, talking to him, a small change began to take place. For the first time in days, Rex lifted his head a little higher, his eyes searching Karen's face. There was a flicker of recognition, a sign that the connection between them, though faded, was not completely lost. Karen smiled, her heart swelling with hope. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Over the next few days, Karen continued to talk to Rex, spending time with him, gently encouraging him. She kept the door open for Emily's return, believing that the dog's spirit would revive when Emily walked back through it. Slowly, Rex began to respond. He didn't jump up and wag his tail like he used to, but he started to show interest in the food Karen placed in front of him. He ate little at first, but it was a sign of improvement. Karen didn't push him, understanding that this was a process, a delicate balance of patience and love. As the weeks passed, Emily's absence still hung heavy, but Karen noticed that Rex wasn't quite as still as he had been. He moved around the house more, even if it was just to lie down in different spots, always staying close to the window. It wasn't the same as before, but Rex was slowly finding his way back to life. Karen could see the light in his eyes begin to return, just a little bit each day. It was the first real sign of healing. She knew that Emily's return was what he needed to truly feel whole again. But for now, this was progress, and it was enough. The days stretched into weeks, and Karen could feel the change in Rex. He wasn't the same dog he had been when Emily left, but there was a small flicker of life returning to his eyes. He still spent most of his time by the window, waiting for her, but now he occasionally looked up at Karen when she spoke to him. He was eating more, though not much. Every day was a slow, small victory. Karen continued to talk to him, telling him about Emily and how much she missed him too. "She'll be back soon, Rex," Karen would say softly. "Just hold on a little longer." It wasn't much, but it seemed to comfort him. It was a gray morning when the phone rang. Karen was in the kitchen, making breakfast, when she heard it. Her heart skipped a beat. She wiped her hands on the towel and picked up the phone. "Hello. Hi, Mrs. Johnson. This is Emily." Karen's heart swelled. "Emily, how are you, honey?" "I'm good, Mom. I miss you, and I miss Rex. I just wanted to check in." Karen smiled, her voice filled with warmth. "We miss you too. Rex is, well, he's been a little down since you left. But he's doing better now. Slowly but surely. I can't wait to see him. Is he okay?" Emily asked, concern in her voice. "He's getting there," Karen replied. "He's eating more, and he's not lying by the window all the time anymore. But he still misses you. He's waiting for you." There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. "I miss him so much, Mom. I've been thinking about him every day." "He knows that," Karen said gently. "He knows you're thinking of him. He'll be okay until you get back." Emily let out a small sigh. "I'll be home soon. I promise. Maybe this weekend." Karen's heart leaped. That would be wonderful. Rex will be so happy to see you. After a few more minutes of catching up, Emily hung up. Karen put the phone down, a smile on her face. Rex had been sitting quietly by the window, his eyes always searching, always waiting. She walked over to him, kneeling beside him. "Guess who's coming home, Rex?" she said softly, her hand gently stroking his fur. Rex lifted his head and looked at her, his amber eyes filled with a quiet hope. "Emily's coming home this weekend," Karen whispered. Rex's tail gave a small wag, just a flicker, but it was enough to bring tears to Karen's eyes. It had been so long since he had shown any sign of joy, and now, for the first time in weeks, there was a small spark in his heart. He wasn't fully healed, not yet, but the thought of Emily returning had given him a reason to hope again. Karen sat with him for a while, both of them basking in the quiet peace of the moment. It wasn't perfect, but it was a step forward. A small victory for both of them. Emily would be home soon, and Rex would finally have his best friend back. They would heal. Together, slowly but surely. The weekend arrived, and the atmosphere in the house was filled with anticipation. Karen could barely sleep the night before, her thoughts racing with the excitement of Emily's return. Rex seemed to sense something too. His eyes brighter, his movements more lively. It was as if he knew that soon, his best friend would be walking through the door. Karen had prepared the house, cleaning up and making everything just right. She had even bought a new collar for Rex, one that was a little bigger to match his growing frame. She placed it on him and smiled as he wagged his tail. It was a rare sight. Rex was becoming more himself again. The drive to the airport felt long, even though it was only a short distance away. The moment they stepped into the terminal, Karen's heart raced with excitement. She spotted Emily immediately, her familiar face standing out among the crowd. She was carrying her suitcase, her eyes scanning the area, and then their gazes met. Emily's face lit up with a smile as she rushed toward Karen. "Mom," she called, dropping her suitcase and wrapping her arms around her. "I missed you so much." Karen hugged her tightly, her heart full. "I missed you too, sweetheart," she said, pulling back to look at her daughter. Emily was different now, her confidence shining through, but there was a hint of homesickness in her eyes. "How's Rex?" Emily asked, her voice soft with concern. He's doing better, Karen replied, taking Emily's hand as they walked toward the exit. He's been waiting for you. He misses you so much. Emily smiled, a mixture of relief and joy. I can't wait to see him. As they pulled up to the house, Emily's eyes were immediately drawn to the window where Rex had been sitting for weeks. He was there, standing and looking out, his posture different this time, more alert. When the car came to a stop, Karen opened the door. Rex, she called softly. The dog's ears perked up, and before anyone could blink, he bolted toward the door. Emily stepped out of the car, and the moment Rex saw her, his tail began to wag furiously. He ran straight to her, his steps eager, almost as if he had forgotten how to walk slowly. Emily bent down, and Rex jumped up, his front paws landing on her shoulders. The two of them fell into an embrace, Emily laughing as tears filled her eyes. I missed you, buddy, she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Rex licked her face, his body vibrating with happiness. For the first time in weeks, Karen saw Rex's entire body relaxed, his joy contagious. He was home. After a few moments, Emily stood up, holding Rex close. We're together again, she said, her voice filled with peace. Karen watched them, her heart swelling. She knew this moment, this reunion, was just the beginning of Rex's healing. The bond between them was stronger than ever, and as Emily and Rex walked back inside, Karen knew that everything would be okay. The house felt alive again, filled with laughter, love, and the sound of a dog's tail happily wagging. Rex had waited, but now, the wait was over. He was home, and so was Emily. The days following Emily's return were filled with joy and laughter. Rex, who had spent so much time waiting and longing, was now his old self again. Every morning, Emily would wake up to find him lying beside her bed, his eyes full of love and excitement. She would smile, gently petting him as he wiggled with happiness, his tail thumping against the floor. They spent hours together, walking around the neighborhood, playing fetch in the yard, and simply enjoying each other's company. It was as if the time apart had only made their bond stronger. Emily was settling into her new routine, balancing her college life with the comfort of being back home, and Rex seemed to thrive in the warmth of her presence. He had learned to trust again, not just in Emily, but in the moments they shared together. It wasn't just the playful times that filled the house with warmth, it was the quiet moments too. In the evenings, Emily and Karen would sit in the living room, chatting about their day, while Rex rested his head on Emily's lap, content to simply be near her. It was a simple but beautiful sight, a testament to the love they had for each other. There were days when Rex would follow Emily around the house, never far from her side, as if he had to be sure she was still there, still with him. And every time Emily left for class, Rex would wait patiently by the door, his eyes never leaving her until she returned. Karen couldn't help but smile as she watched the two of them, knowing that the bond between them was unbreakable. Emily had brought Rex back to life, in a way, and Rex, in turn, had shown Emily the true meaning of loyalty and unconditional love. It wasn't just a relationship between a girl and her dog. It was a partnership, a friendship forged in the toughest of times, and now, it was flourishing. As the weeks went by, Emily and Rex continued to grow together, their lives intertwined in ways that only they could understand. Rex had come a long way from the days of waiting by the window, lost in his own sadness. Now he was a dog full of life, full of love, and he had his best friend by his side. They were a team once again, stronger than ever. And as Emily prepared to head back to school for the next semester, Rex walked by her side, tail wagging, knowing that no matter how far apart they might be, their bond would always bring them back together. As the months passed, the bond between Emily and Rex only grew stronger. Every weekend, Emily would return home, and Rex would greet her as if she had been gone for years, his tail wagging so hard it almost knocked over the furniture. It wasn't just the big moments that brought them closer, but the small, everyday things. Emily would sit on the couch, studying for her classes, while Rex curled up at her feet, his head resting on her lap. He wasn't just her dog. He was her companion, her protector, and her best friend. One afternoon, as Emily sat by the window, watching the rain pour down outside, Rex sat next to her, his body close, as if he could sense the shift in the air. Emily gently scratched his ears, her mind wandering to the time she had spent away from home. She thought about how different everything had felt when she first left for college, how hard it was to leave Rex behind. But now, every visit home reminded her of the deep connection they shared. "You've been good, haven't you, Rex?" she said softly, her voice a little sad as she spoke to him. Rex looked up at her, his eyes full of understanding. It was as if he knew what she was feeling. He had been there, patiently waiting for her return, just as he had done so many times before. The quiet moments they shared were always the most special. As the semester drew to a close, Emily knew she would have to say goodbye to Rex once again, at least for a little while. She packed her things and made sure to give him an extra long hug before she left, promising she would be back soon. Rex, as always, seemed to understand, his eyes full of trust and love. "I'll be back before you know it," Emily whispered, giving him one last kiss on the head. The house felt empty again without her. Rex wandered through the rooms, sniffing around, as if he was looking for her, but he knew she had gone. Karen noticed the change in Rex as well. He wasn't as lively without Emily around, but he was still her loyal companion. Every time the door opened, he would perk up, waiting for that familiar sound of Emily's voice, the rustle of her footsteps. And even though Emily was away, Rex never stopped waiting. He always knew she would come back, just as he knew that his love for her would never fade. He had waited through the hardest times, and now, with every return, their bond was stronger. When Emily came home again, it was like nothing had changed. She walked through the door, and Rex was there, right by her side, ready to welcome her with the same love he had always shown. The cycle would repeat, but it wasn't a sad one. It was a testament to their unwavering connection, a promise that no matter how far apart they were, they would always find their way back to each other. Rex had waited, and Emily had returned. And in that moment, nothing else mattered. As time passed, the bond between Emily and Rex only grew stronger. Each visit home became a reminder of how deeply they relied on each other, how much they meant to one another. Emily's return always felt like a celebration, and Rex greeted her every time with the same enthusiasm, his tail wagging furiously, his eyes gleaming with excitement. But this time, something was different. Emily was nearing the end of her college year, and soon, she would have to face the reality of saying goodbye once more. The thought of leaving again felt like an insurmountable weight on her chest. She couldn't bear the thought of leaving Rex, of breaking the rhythm they had found, the rhythm that made her feel like everything was as it should be. The days grew warmer as summer approached, and Emily's final exams loomed closer. She found herself spending more time with Rex, going on long walks around the neighborhood, sitting in the yard with him, just enjoying the silence and the comfort of each other's company. She had learned that there was something healing in these quiet moments with him, a comfort that went beyond words. Rex, for his part, was content simply to be near her. He followed Emily everywhere she went, from the kitchen to the living room, from the yard to the door. It was as though he could feel her hesitation, her unease. It was the kind of connection that only time and love could build, a connection that spoke volumes without needing to be said. On the day of Emily's departure, Rex was waiting by the door, his eyes locked on hers as if he already knew what was happening. Emily knelt down beside him, her heart heavy. "I'll be back, buddy," she whispered, stroking his fur. Rex let out a small sigh, his eyes soft, filled with an understanding that only he could possess. Emily couldn't help but feel like she was tearing something apart, but she knew she had to go. "You've been so strong," she said, her voice breaking. "I'll miss you so much." She stood up and turned to walk out the door, but as she reached for the handle, she heard the soft padding of Rex's paws behind her. She stopped, her heart skipping a beat. Rex was standing there, looking at her, waiting, as if asking her to stay. The moment seemed to stretch on forever, the weight of it too much to bear. Emily took a deep breath, then turned back around. "I'll come back, Rex," she said, her voice steady now, despite the tears in her eyes. "You just have to hold on until I get back." Rex's tail gave a slow wag, as if to say he understood. Emily smiled through her tears and closed the door behind her. The drive away from home felt longer than ever before, but she knew she would return. And when she did, Rex would be there, waiting for her. They both knew that no matter where life took them, their bond would never break. It was a promise that neither of them needed to say aloud, but it was understood all the same. Months passed, and life gradually returned to a sense of routine for both Emily and Rex. Though their moments apart were still filled with longing, the bond they shared was as strong as ever. Emily had grown accustomed to the steady rhythm of her college life, balancing her studies with the comfort of coming home on weekends to be with Rex. Every time she pulled into the driveway, she would see him waiting by the door, tail wagging, his excitement as if he hadn't seen her in years. It never failed to make her heart swell. One evening, after another long day of classes, Emily found herself driving back home, her mind heavy with thoughts of the future. She had been offered an internship abroad, a huge opportunity that would take her even further away from home. While the idea of the internship excited her, it also brought with it the anxiety of leaving Rex for months at a time. She couldn't imagine being without him for so long, but she knew that this was the next step in her life. As she pulled into the driveway, she saw Rex standing by the window, as usual, waiting for her return. The sight made her heart ache, and for a moment, she wondered how she could ever leave him behind. Stepping out of the car, she could already hear the familiar sound of his paws on the floor as he padded toward the door. As she opened it, Rex bolted into the hallway, nearly knocking her over with his enthusiastic greeting. She bent down to hug him tightly, breathing in his familiar scent. "Hey, buddy," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. "I don't know what I'm going to do without you." Rex wagged his tail furiously, his eyes full of trust and love, as if to say that he would always be there for her, no matter what. Emily had always believed that Rex understood more than most dogs, that he knew her better than anyone. As she looked into his eyes, she realized that Rex, in his quiet, steady way, had been her rock through all the challenges of the past few years. They had been through so much together, and no matter what lay ahead, she knew they would face it side by side. The next few days were filled with packing and preparation, but as always, Rex stayed close. Every time she moved around the house, he was right there with her, following her from room to room. The night before she was to leave, Emily sat on the couch, Rex lying beside her. She rested her head on his fur, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I'll come back, Rex," she promised softly, as if the simple act of speaking it aloud could make it true. Rex nuzzled her gently, offering the comfort only he could give. The time came for her to leave, and though she felt the weight of it in her chest, she knew that their bond would survive the distance. Emily gave Rex one last hug, promising that she would return as soon as she could. As she closed the door behind her and walked away, she glanced back one last time. Rex was sitting by the window, watching her leave, but his tail gave a slight wag, as if telling her that everything would be okay. She didn't know when she would be back, but she knew in her heart that no matter how far apart they were, Rex would always be waiting for her, just as he always had. Months passed, and Emily found herself settling into her new life. The internship was everything she had hoped for, but as the weeks turned into months, she began to feel the weight of the distance between her and home. She would think of Rex often, imagining his eager face, waiting for her return. The quiet moments she had spent with him, sitting on the couch, studying, or simply enjoying each other's presence, felt like a distant memory. Every time she looked at her phone, she would see pictures of him, photos of his playful antics, and it made her miss him even more. She tried to call home as often as she could, but it was never the same. No matter how many calls she made, nothing could fill the void that had formed in her heart. She had been away for longer than she ever expected, and the longing for her dog and for home only grew stronger. One afternoon, Emily decided she couldn't wait any longer. She booked a flight back to see Rex, to hold him in her arms again, to feel the familiar comfort of his presence. She knew it was risky, that she had responsibilities, but the thought of being without him for even one more day seemed unbearable. The day she returned home, the weather was calm, the sky clear, and as she drove toward her house, a wave of emotion washed over her. It had been so long, yet the feeling of pulling into the driveway, of seeing the house that had always been her home, was overwhelming. She parked the car and walked up to the front door, her heart pounding in her chest. She opened it slowly, and there, waiting just inside, was Rex. His fur was a little longer than before, his eyes still as bright and full of love. He didn't bark or jump around, but instead, he stood there, his tail wagging gently. Emily kneeled down in front of him, and before she could say anything, Rex nuzzled her face, his body trembling with excitement and joy. It was as though no time had passed, as if they had never been apart. Emily felt the tears well up in her eyes. "I missed you so much, Rex," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Rex licked her face, his eyes filled with the same unspoken understanding that had always been between them. They had both been through so much, and now, in this moment, they were finally together again. Emily stood up, and Rex followed her as she moved through the house. Everything felt like it had fallen into place once again. The house was alive with their shared energy, the kind of quiet, comforting presence that only they could provide for each other. Emily spent the next few days catching up on everything. The time she had missed, the changes that had happened, but mostly, she spent it reconnecting with Rex. She took him on long walks through the neighborhood, like they used to do, and as they walked, Emily realized that despite the distance, despite the time apart, their bond had only grown stronger. Rex had waited for her, just like he always did, and now, they would make up for all the lost time. Emily knew that she would eventually have to leave again for her responsibilities, but for now, she would cherish every moment with Rex. No matter how far apart they were, their love for each other would never fade. It was a promise that would last a lifetime. As the days passed, Emily's time at home felt like a precious gift. She knew that she couldn't stay forever, but the moments she shared with Rex made it feel as though no time had passed at all. Every morning, they would go for a long walk, the sunlight filtering through the trees, casting long shadows across the quiet neighborhood. Rex, always by her side, seemed to walk with a purpose, as if he was savoring every step, every moment with her. Emily felt the same way. She had missed these simple pleasures, the companionship, the peace that came with being home, with being with Rex. They had always understood each other in a way that words could never express. One afternoon, after a long walk, Emily and Rex sat together in the yard, the breeze gently blowing through the trees. Emily leaned back against the old oak tree, her eyes closed, letting the warmth of the sun wash over her. Rex lay beside her, his head resting on her lap, his breathing steady and calm. It was moments like these that Emily cherished the most. She thought about how much had changed since she had left for college. She had grown, learned new things, and experienced life in ways she never could have imagined. But through it all, Rex had been there, waiting for her, a constant in her life. It made her realize just how much he had shaped her, how much he had been a part of her journey. As the days grew shorter and the time for her departure approached once again, Emily found herself dreading the thought of leaving. She had just found her way back to Rex, back to the place where everything felt right, and now she had to leave it all behind. She spent her last evening at home in the same way they had spent so many others, sitting quietly in the yard with Rex by her side. She looked at him, his eyes full of trust and love, and she felt her heart break a little. "I'll be back soon, Rex," she whispered, stroking his fur. "I promise." Rex nuzzled her hand, his tail giving a gentle wag, as if to say that he understood. He had waited for her before, and he would wait again. Emily stood up, taking one last look at the yard, at the house, at everything that had been her home for so long. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she also knew that no matter where she went, no matter how far apart they were, Rex would always be there waiting for her. And when she returned, they would pick up right where they left off, just like they always did. With a final pat on Rex's head, Emily left for her next adventure, knowing that the bond they shared would never be broken. It would survive time and distance, and no matter how many goodbyes they said, there would always be a reunion waiting for them at the end. The months following Emily's departure felt long for both her and Rex, but their connection remained unbroken. Emily settled into her life abroad, learning new things and facing challenges, but no matter how far away she was, she never forgot about Rex. She would call Karen every week to ask about him, always eager to hear how he was doing. Karen reassured her that Rex was doing well, though there were moments of sadness when Emily wasn't around. But he had started to adjust. He still waited by the window every time he heard a car pull up, but now, there was less longing in his eyes, and more of a quiet hope that seemed to grow with each passing day. One rainy afternoon, as Karen sat on the porch with a cup of tea, she noticed Rex pacing near the door, his ears perked up. It was the same way he behaved when he knew Emily was on her way home. Karen smiled, knowing that Rex was still waiting for his best friend. Soon, Rex, she whispered. Soon she'll be back. Time had passed, but it felt like it hadn't for Rex. He had a routine, just as Emily had, and though she was far away, the rhythm of their lives continued. Emily had not forgotten him, and Rex had not forgotten her. Then, one day, a message came from Emily. She was coming home for a break. Rex's excitement was almost palpable when Karen told him. He was more energetic, his tail wagging, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. The day of Emily's return arrived, and the house buzzed with energy. Karen had prepared everything, and she knew that this reunion would be just as special as all the others. Emily's plane landed, and as she walked through the airport, her heart raced with excitement. It had been months since she last saw Rex, and she missed him more than words could express. She picked up her luggage and made her way out of the terminal, her mind focused on one thing, getting home to Rex. When Emily pulled into the driveway, she saw Rex standing by the window, just as he always did. His eyes met hers, and for a moment, time stood still. She opened the door, and before she could even step out, Rex bolted toward her, his excitement unmatched. He jumped up, his paws landing on her chest, and she laughed as she fell back onto the grass. Rex licked her face, his tail wagging furiously, and Emily hugged him tightly. "I missed you so much, buddy," she whispered, her voice breaking. Rex nuzzled her cheek, his body vibrating with happiness. It was like no time had passed at all. Emily sat up, holding Rex close as he rested his head on her lap. She stroked his fur, feeling the warmth of the bond they shared. In that moment, everything felt right. They had been through so much, and yet, their love for each other had only grown. Emily knew that no matter where life took her, she would always come back to Rex. No matter the distance, no matter the time apart, they were always going to be together again. Rex had waited, and now, Emily was home. That was all that mattered. As Emily settled back into the rhythm of home, she found comfort in the simple moments with Rex. Their routine had returned, with early morning walks and quiet evenings spent together. Rex, as always, was a constant presence by her side, following her around the house, lying next to her as she studied, and greeting her with excitement every time she walked into a room. His loyalty was unwavering, and in return, Emily gave him the love and attention he had waited so long for. But as the days passed, Emily realized that this was not just a temporary feeling. The bond between them had deepened. Rex had always been more than just a dog to her. He had been her companion, her protector, and her constant source of comfort. But now, he had become her reminder of the importance of unconditional love and patience. She remembered the early days when she had first left for college, how she had felt guilty leaving him behind, how she had worried about how he would cope without her. Now, seeing him so happy and content, she realized that their bond had only strengthened with time. But there was still something tugging at her heart, something she couldn't shake off. Emily had always known that she would eventually have to leave again, that the demands of her future would pull her away from home once more. She had learned to cherish every moment with Rex, but there was a quiet sadness in her heart every time she thought about the time when she would have to say goodbye again. The thought of leaving him behind, even if it was only for a short while, was unbearable. One evening, as Emily sat in the living room with Rex by her feet, she felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She looked down at him, his head resting on her lap, his eyes gazing up at her with love and trust. "I don't want to leave you again, Rex," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. Rex didn't move, but his tail gave a slow wag, as if to say he understood. Emily smiled through her tears. She knew that no matter how many times they said goodbye, they would always be there for each other when the time came for a reunion. The next morning, as she packed her bags once more, Rex sat by her side, as if offering his silent support. Emily gave him one last hug before she left for the airport, holding him tightly, as if she could somehow freeze this moment in time. "I'll be back soon, buddy," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Rex licked her cheek, as if assuring her that everything would be okay. As Emily left the house and drove away, she glanced in the rearview mirror. Rex was standing by the window, watching her leave. Their eyes met for a moment, and in that brief exchange, Emily knew that their bond would never fade. No matter where life took them, no matter how far apart they would always find their way back to each other. And with that thought in her heart, Emily drove off, knowing that Rex would be waiting for her when she returned. Months went by, and as the days slowly slipped by, Emily's life continued to unfold in unexpected ways. She was thriving in her new environment, building new friendships, and taking on challenges she had never imagined before. But the weight of being away from home, from Rex, never truly left her. Each week she would check in with Karen, her heart aching each time she heard about the little things Rex did, the way he waited by the door, the way he still looked for her when she wasn't around. It was a mixture of pride and longing, pride for how far they both had come, but longing for the days when they could be together again. One evening, after another busy week at college, Emily found herself sitting in her small apartment, scrolling through photos of Rex. The images of him as a puppy, those early days when they were inseparable, filled her with both warmth and sadness. Her heart ached with the thought of how much time had passed, how much she had missed. It was then that she made a decision. She wasn't going to wait any longer. She would come home, not just for a visit, but for a while. She booked her flight the next day, her excitement growing with each passing hour. She couldn't wait to see Rex again, to feel that familiar connection she had missed for so long. The day she arrived, the weather was warm, the sky clear, and the house seemed to welcome her with open arms. As she parked in the driveway, she saw the familiar sight of Rex standing by the window, just as he always had. His tail wagged as he saw her, and the moment she stepped out of the car, he bolted toward her. Emily opened the door to find him waiting for her in the hallway, his eyes full of recognition and joy. Rex leaped up, his paws landing on her chest as she laughed, almost losing her balance. She held him tightly, burying her face in his fur, feeling the warmth of his body, the comfort of knowing she was home. "I missed you so much," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. Rex licked her face, his tail wagging furiously, and for a moment, it was as if no time had passed at all. The bond they shared, though stretched by distance, was as strong as ever. Over the next few days, Emily spent every moment she could with Rex. They went on long walks, just like they used to. She took him to the park, and they played fetch for hours, both of them relishing the joy of simply being in each other's company. Every time she looked at Rex, she saw the same trust, the same unwavering loyalty that had always been there. As the days wore on, Emily couldn't help but feel a sense of peace settle in her heart. Even though the future was uncertain, she knew that Rex would always be there for her. No matter where life took them, no matter how many times they said goodbye, they would always find their way back to each other. Rex had waited for her, and now she was home. Their bond was unbreakable, and nothing, not time or distance, could ever change that.